Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nicholas Rivas, and I talk about politics and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about the drag discourse that was going on a few weeks ago on Twitter. If you have a life, you probably don't know about this, but there was a discourse on Twitter, of course, and TikTok, and I don't know. It popped up on even Fox News of people talking about should you bring your kids to drag shows, and a lot of the more conservative crowd said no, obviously not. It's inherently sexual, but a lot of the more LGBTQ, I guess, gender liberated, sexually liberated people felt that no, it's not. And I was in the same boat. I still am in the same boat. But I kind of get where people are coming from, and I'm not trying to play the center, sit in the fence person, sit in the middle of the fence. Was it fence sitting? Whatever, fence sitting person. But I kind of assumed this is some bigoted bullshit, because usually when it comes to like drag queens, if it comes to trans people, usually the inherent gut feeling of like, it's kind of weird. Most middle America doesn't understand it, and I get it. It's weird. You see a guy with a beard, but he has long, beautiful hair, and it's colorful, and he's wearing 5-inch heels. Like, it looks weird to the common society, but it's, who gives a shit is one, and for two, it's not inherently sexual. They're just people being expressive with their attire and how they feel, and it's a show, right? It's a costume. The drag queens, not the trans people, but of course throughout history, anytime a fucking gay person does something, people lose their tits. And so that's what I initially thought it was, and I can still kind of see it, but there were images and moments that led us to believe that, okay, there is some sexuality that should be not given to children. I think that's everyone unanimously agrees to that, but I think the communication and the wires were just crossed. I believe people have every right to say, hey, I don't like, anything sexual near my children, but I think it's also what is sexual, right? Like, obviously nobody wants anything sexual with their children, but is a drag queen doing a show, is that inherently sexual? No, but to many it is. And especially in the case of what started the Twitter discourse, people like Shoonhead, who I thoroughly enjoy and watch their content, said, hey, don't put this near my children. And it's like, well, the scenario she showed was a drag queen dancing, and I think they were putting money in her clothes, and there was a big sign that said it's not going to look itself. Now that made me feel kind of gross, and I'm probably the more gender fluid person and sexually fluid person than the average conservative, but that even made me go, that's a little funky, right? Understandably, because I think that is sexual. Like, what's the line is, well, children should be touching another person, especially in an area that they shouldn't. That's like a clear-cut answer. But then you find out that the sign was actually up because it's an ice cream place. The place that they rented out to have this drag show was an ice cream place. So, okay, out of context, it looks sexual, but it wasn't. They didn't care. Fox News, I think Tucker Carlson shared it and talked about his disgust, and people were like, oh, that's disgusting. I'm surprised it wasn't bigger outside of the Twitter sphere, but I remember hearing people talking about it left and right, and I think ultimately we can agree that any sexual stuff near children should be bad and not good. Discussions of sexuality and gender are fine, but having somebody do this touching, and that's weird. And if the attire is too sexual, like if somebody has big bosoms and they're out, right? I don't want to see that. And not even just big, but any bosoms are out, like any boobies. I don't want to see that shit, and I don't think a kid should see that shit. Now, I don't take that as boobs are inherently sexual, because like they're part of biological, feeding of babies, just a part of life. But I think there are societal sexual contexts with it that, I don't feel comfortable having a kid near, even though there's nothing inherently sexual with boobs. It's just a body part. I think we can agree that it's uncomfortable, and it's just something that a kid shouldn't see, especially within our society where we've deemed, hey, we all have to wear clothes and women have to wear bras. And even though there's a discussion for why do women have to wear bras and men can be shirtless, I do feel that uncomfortableness, and I don't know if I want to bring a kid near that. Now, I'm definitely in the camp of, I think it's stupid that we do that to people, and I think the only reason sexual is because we deem it as such. Unless it's the sexual act itself, everything else can be considered this kind of vague. Does it fall? Does it not? But I don't think these people want to have that discussion. When I saw the conservatives, I saw them even bringing up, like, libs of TikTok. They were bringing up the drag queen reading a book thing that they have, like, at public libraries. And it's like, a drag queen reading to kids books isn't bad. Why is that even a conversation? But I think it, to people, they see these weirdos, this is so out there. People are being so expressive, it's so unnatural. they look at it and feel disgust, and they inherently deem it as sexual. They think that's inherently sexual because I feel it's sexual, and it works. People look at that and go, "Oh my god, that's disgusting! Can't believe you have a drag queen reading to a kid." And my counter is like, who gives a shit? Usually these drag queens have more attire than myself. Like they're wearing all of these clothes in a costume, like a dress maybe that a middle school teacher would wear. It's very innocent, and it's actually kind of cool to have this inclusiveness. Hey kids, if you want to become a drag queen, you can. That's fine. They're human. Let them live and grow and be whoever the hell they want. I doubt I saw a drag queen when I was a kid and said I want to do that. I'm not as gender expressive as a drag queen is. So yeah, it didn't work on me. I like what I like and I do what I want. Had no deeming on my sexuality because it's a fucking attire. It's a costume. I don't see Mickey Mouse and think, oh, that's gonna mess up my youth. Like, it's a costume, right? Like, it doesn't change my idea of what a big mouse is, right? Like, or what a mouse is. And so yeah, if they're wearing stuff and it's not revealing of any sort of genitalia, who gives a fuck? Is it just because they look weird? And that kind of leads me to the main point of this is, like, I think there are healthy discussions that need to be had about what is sexualizing a child and what is grooming a child. A very common thing that we've run into in our society, where a lot of children talk to older people because they're being groomed and they don't even know what being groomed is. And I think discourses like this piss me off because it puts even it further. People don't understand. They start throwing groomer for everything when real grooming occurs all the time amongst both sides. And so I wish they were just upfront with their bigotry. Like, if you just straight up said, man, I fucking hate those gay people. Like, I saw an image of people, like, during this discourse, I saw people posting, like, a photo of a guy with a shield protecting his kids from, like, the LGBTQ rainbow. And it was, like, clear, like, look, that's just bigotry. There's no nuance to it. The guy doesn't want his kids to be gay. He doesn't want his kids to be influenced by gay people. Fine. That's wrong. But that's your truth. Like, I don't want to hear the, like, what's the line of sexuality in children and is wearing a drag inherently sexual? You don't care. You don't care. You just saw somebody on some sort of spectrum of gender, spectrum of sexuality, something, and you felt unfucking comfortable. Just be real. Like, if you just said you didn't like gay people, that would make me so happy. I would know where you stand. But when you play this card of, like, genuine concern, I just want to know the line, like, why is that not sexual? Because there's people who take their kids to Hooters and see nothing wrong with it, but then they see a gay dude walk by the street and they have to shield their kids' eyes. Like, that's obviously a bigoted piece of shit. But they've been coming more to the middle America who do have genuine concerns, and that's what pisses me off, that these fucking bigots and idiots can hide amongst our regular folk who are just trying to understand. Like, I don't know what a drag show is. It's here you have strippers and you see titties, and it's like, no, if there's a kid drag show, I'm sure that there's some sort of provisions and precautions that must be taken, so that they can shield the kid from any sexuality, because that's grooming. That's fucking grooming. If there are instances of people actually grooming, then call it the fuck out. I would say those teen pageants are worse, if not just as bad. And so I don't hear that being a discourse. Now, Chew On had people like that say, well, that's also disgusting. And I respect it. I think it's principled. I do believe there's a fear-mongering, though, against the LGBTQ, because it's the very easy target. It's always been the easy target to fuck with them. They're pretty easy, right? They're the unnormed. They're the oddity amongst the society. So it's very easy to make them a fear-mongering, factor. So those are the people I can't stand. But I think if there's people who genuinely want to know what a drag show is and why it's on itself, it's not sexual, and kids should go, cool, that's fine. That's a good question, because I myself didn't even understand. I think initially I was just kind of like, I don't know how I feel. But after seeing and hearing and understanding the context of it all, I just realized that I don't give a shit. And if someone wants to go take their kid to a library and see a drag person read a book, I don't give a fuck. And if you do, boo fucking who cares? They're not doing anything explicitly sexual, and if you think that's explicitly sexual, you're a fucking idiot. So yeah, that's basically it. So thank you so much. New videos every other day, and you're the best. Bye.